Okay, furniture applied to this kind of slanted facade. In general, furniture is a new family. Okay, so if you do Revit new family and you go down and search for our friend furniture, you will see that it starts with a similar interface to many other options, okay, to structural columns and they share this little creational tools, okay, like extrusion, blend, revolve, sweep, swept, blend, and then all these void options. I don't think I have to explain what the meaning of extrusion and blend it is. It's like very similar to some other softwares like Rhino, Maya, 3D Max and stuff. So in that sense, not a big deal of the meaning. But how do we actually operate normally in this interface? I'm going to leave the blend to the last, so you see that the other ones are actually quite simple. I'm going to go to the 3D space and create an extrusion. The way this family and many other ones like this one work is that you always start drafting curves, so you need to know in what reference plane are you drafting those curves first, and then say yes, extrude it. Okay, it's a little bit similar to conceptual masses, but it's a bit more self-intuitive because it tells you every step how to do it. For example, you press extrusion, it brings the modify tools like what type of lines do you want. You draw a line, it has to be obviously a closed polyline. Okay, and then you say okay. This brings these little guys here that you can change approximately the size of each of the faces if you want, or you can change the parameters for the extrusion end to be 2 feet, okay, and the extrusion start to be 1 feet, okay, or 1.5. You can select any of these masses that you're doing and give it a material. Some of you have noticed that when you're dealing with families, you don't get many materials. Well, the way it works is that you can actually say create new material, rename it, and call it like wood furniture. And what you just press this option, which is the assets browser, is basically a library of materials, and you can just click and search for materials over here. Now, I normally use the appearance library, it's quite good. Search for wood, and notice that you have many options here. I'm going to say beach, for example, or birds. The way to utilize these materials from this asset browser is to first, as I did, create the material here. It's a default. Second, open the browser, and then third, double click on the material. Okay, and what it does is assigns that material to the one you created. Okay, see if it works. It's coming, it's updating, it's kind of slow, but it does it. Okay, so there it is. You double click and the information is transmitted into this new material. Okay, you can say okay. You can also see how it looks. It's realistic, it looks amazing, and you save it. This again is like a block or like an external family to your file. You can say wood panel table. You load it into the project that you want to utilize it. I'm going to use it in my, I think I closed it, so let me actually open it up again. No, I didn't close it. It should be there. No? And there it is. It's called Furniture Options. Let me close. I think I have the mullion here still, and the conceptual mass. There we go. Load into project. Comes to the only project that is open, and there is a little guy dancing around. Now it's a furniture, so this furniture is suspecting a floor, no? That's why it's kind of snapping to the floor, and it will respect the vertical dimension. So this is going to be floating precisely the dimension I gave it as extrusion start and end, no? and it's made of wood. So these are the ones that you will normally select, and you will have them as wood panel option here, and it will be pretty much like any other furniture. Instead of being a default option, is one that you're creating. Okay, so I need legs to this table, so I'm going to edit the family. It's going to open it up. I'm going to go to the reference level here. I'm going to create a couple of extrusions because each of the legs are going to be a little like a pipe thing, 2 inches. I'm going to copy this multiple times and bring it to a specific point to hold this table. Okay, I'm going to go and say OK. Go to the 3D. They're too small, so I just need to select them and make sure that the parameters are correct. Another way you can do it is just use the famous align tool, AL. Select the face, select the faces, pop. Okay, it's going to be like a cute table. You save it again, you load into the project, you override, and there it goes. Okay, I forgot the material, edit the family, 3D, I select the legs, and I apply a metal material, for example. So I create a new material, right click, rename, metal legs. Okay, it doesn't change anymore. Whatever. You open the browser for the materials, you search for appearance library, you search for metals, that you're going to find many of them, aluminum, steel, and then again you double click so the information from this material is transferred to this option. When it says updating here, it's taking a little time, but there you go. Okay, you save it again, load it, override. There we go. So you render this, that would be a nice material. Okay, so those with Extrusion you can do you know, shelves, you can do pretty much anything, most of the things that you can imagine. So I say that if you know Extrusion, you know pretty much like a 90% of that interface. But what if you want to actually work instead of for example from plan, let me actually edit this family. What if you want to work like extruded horizontally? Well, that comes the idea of understanding the reference plane that you're drawing the curve and then letting it extrude perpendicular to that plane. This plane is called center from back, so I can actually go to an elevation, I can create an extrusion, and I can create from the reference level, which will be the floor, I can create any shape and start, for example, I don't know, offsetting 2 inches, for example, to give thickness to this. Copying this several times, multiple times, and now we can start trimming these guys, which you first need to kind of cut the middle points and then trim. Trim TR is actually the fillet of AutoCAD. And again, as long as you have one polyline or multiple polylines that create a closed systems of polylines, this is going to extrude properly. That won't work. Notice that if I say OK, it's going to tell me problem, no? So you say trim and you say OK, you go to the 3D and you have like yourself kind of a structure. You can change the parameters for extrusion, 2 feet, you can change the material. I'm going to create a new one. It's going to be wood shelf, and again library, appearance, you go to wood, you can check the birds option, double click, it's updating, takes a little while, there's the information, you close, OK, and it should look nice now. You save it. I didn't say, I should have created a new family because it's a different one. And I'm going to load it. I'm just going to actually override, but I should have created another one. So this is your new shelf. Okay. Good. So in terms of extrusion, you can do vertical, just because I was doing the drawing from the elevation. You can do horizontal. You can do several components with multiple extrusions, and keep on doing your own system of furnitures, for example. No? If it's a little weird, let's say create a revolve. A revolve is very similar. It pretty much tells you like the boundary line and the axis line. So the boundary line has to be a closed element, and then you say give me the axis line, and you create a line here, and then you say I'm done. It will give you a revolve. Okay. Notice that you also have void forms, so you could say give me a void extrusion. You can do a big rectangle and take it down, and you could have like also a void extrusion. Similar to the conceptual masses, the void is still there, that mass, so it's almost like you could always change that mass if you want. Okay. So that would be revolve. Sweep, here's telling us that it needs a sketch path. So I click a sketch path, I create, I don't know, like something curvy. Notice that it gives you already a reference plane, so you can say OK. And now say here select profile. You can select one or you can edit the profile, and it will just allow you to draw in that reference plane. It could be, let's say, a bench. Okay, so I'm going to try to extrude that. Be careful with very sharp curves, because if Revit intersects itself, it fails. Okay, so let's see if it works. Say OK. There you go. So it's basically a sweep as you know it. You can select that, and it could be a concrete material. Again, library, appearance, concrete, suppose aggregate, updating, done, OK, save, load. Override again, I should have just saved as and create a different one. And this is a weird furniture. You can put it in a landscape project or in a more of an urban, and yes, it's like concrete. Okay. More options for furniture. We have sweep. We have done revolve. Sweep blend is the same as a sweep, but it has two profiles. So you can create a sketch path. Okay, you say OK when you're done, and then you say profile 1, profile 2. I say profile 1, edit profile, and I'm going to do the impossible bends, meaning it's a bends that in the beginning serves in one side and then in the end serves the other one. Okay, so here you sit in this area, say OK, and the profile 2 serves the other area. So this is in this side, this one is in the other one. Okay, so it's going to try to blend those together. Let's see if it doesn't hit itself. There you go. So here starts the extrusion, blah blah blah. Everybody's sitting here. Then as you go, you cannot sit anymore. It becomes a wall. And then in this side, people sit in the other side. Anyway, whatever. You get the idea. Select material, concrete. These are more like fancy things. You could do like some kind of furniture. Override, and then it will come here, and that will be your furniture piece. You could do some detail for entrance counter for reception or so and so. No? Okay, so we only have one left, which is a bit tricky option. Okay, and for that I'm going to explain first the idea of, well, given that you can create curves in any reference plane, I'm going to create a couple of reference planes of my own. You can say create, you can set and create a reference plane in an angle. Okay, you can select it and give it a name. I think we've talked about this. You could say hello. Okay, and then in the 3D or whatever you are, you can say I want to create an extrusion, but I want to create the extrusion starting in that reference plane. I'm going to say set. I'm going to search for hello. I can even show that slanted reference plane, and then I can create an extrusion. So that would allow me to do an extrusion that is actually starting or emerging from that slanted plane that I did. Okay. Let me go to the 3D. Okay. From back. Oh, I guess I made it way far away from it, but it is there. So let me delete this one. What if I create also from the elevation, I create another reference plane that is slanted in the other direction? I can say create a reference plane slanted in this direction, give it a name, hello tube, and then I can create an extrusion or anything I want actually from that reference plane. I can search for hello tube and then create an extrusion of whatever shape again, and it will extrude perpendicular to that plane. Okay, so that will be a little bit of an advanced option for creating any of these operations that we're doing before. Is just first create the reference plane that you want to draw the curve that is going to evolve into a form. No? For example, a revolve that is more like the bends, the typical bends. Let me actually delete this one. The typical bends that is like central, and people can come inside and see, look into each other. So that type of revolve will need well, actually you can select one of the standard planes here, but you can do a revolve and create the boundary axis here in the side. Actually you can sit in both sides in this case. Create a mirror and a trim, and then say axis line here. Okay. So that will be your little concrete thing. A question, how do we get inside to sit there? Any ideas? Huh? We make a void, no? So we go to the reference plane, we jump. That's true. But we can create an extrusion void and pretty much select the cheese component, like pizza. It doesn't really matter, what part, because these areas don't matter that much. Go to the 3D. Again, that's an extrusion void. We need to select the void and drag it up so it cuts the whole thing. No? Okay, so that will be a load into the project, override, and there is a little thing to be utilized as a bench. Okay, so all these families we're doing, let me close this, are very similar. This one that we're doing in family furniture is very similar to many other families. If I say new family, for example, structural column. Okay, you start with this new set of reference plane. We've done this, But look at this interface, it's exactly the same as the one that we've been playing with, okay? So that would be if I want to create my own weird column, no? Or new family furniture systems. You can do most of generic models. Generic models, when you're not sure what it is, this model, the generic models could be like a half wall, half furniture thing, and you're not sure what it is. It has also the same interface, so you will be able to do anything with that as well. And many other families are actually sharing that interface, this idea of first creating reference planes and then actually creating the curve that's going to generate your form, no? I believe planting, I believe most of these structural elements are actually the same as well. So once you know that one, you know many other families, okay? For example, if it's a column that is slightly weird, you can also go to, again, to the column as I said. And you can go to the center, let's say to the back view, and use this, create an extrusion and draw like a weird column that has a bit more of a peculiar shape. I don't know, like an offset here of 2 feet. And then you can do an offset of 6 inches. I'm going to copy this a couple times. Again, I'm not controlling this, but this is pretty much like AutoCAD. You will be able to manage this whatever level of detail you want to have. You can say OK. It's going to actually extrude it. We can reduce that to also 6 inches. And this could be, I don't know if you remember one of the images we saw last class, there was like a curtain wall structure made in metal that was holding the curtain wall, and it was in a slanted form. So that could be the way to do that specific column. You would do a new material. We would be named as steel probably. And then again, the same process as always. You will search for metal, steel metal, and then whatever proper steel plate. Updating. It's brought in. Okay. And there you go. So that would be a column. Obviously it's like a little rough in that sense. I'm going to close this. I'm not even sure this is going to